Hey guys, I've got Milwaukee's new 18-volt cordless heat gun. It's model number 2688-20, and I think this is the world's first 18-volt cordless heat gun that is battery powered. So let's take a closer look, and I'll put this thing through its paces with a couple tests. Okay, so here's the heat gun up close. It is a very compact head design at 6.35 inches end to end. I think it is the most compact heat gun I've ever used. It has a rafter hook here, or a ladder hook at the back, this is really nice. If you're up on a ladder somewhere, you can hang this without scorching yourself. And it also sits flat on the battery, something that's a big advantage over a lot of other heat guns, that when you lay it down, you're always a little bit worried if the nozzle is going to scorch whatever you're laying it down on. So this one stands upright, which I really like in between uses. It also has an LED light on the front, and to pull the trigger, you got to push down this little safety switch. It's pretty easy to get with your thumb, whichever right or left-handed you are. It's on either side. And then you pull the trigger, and you can see the light comes on, and it starts blowing heat. And then if it gets warm enough, you can see the coils are actually red hot inside there with their little ceramic guard, keeping them separate. One thing I was actually pretty disappointed about is this tool doesn't have any variable heat settings. So most heat guns, on the back right here, you can turn a dial and dial in what temperature you want. With this one, it's all about duration. You keep the heat on a surface, and how far away you are is how you got to regulate your temperature with this. There is no low or high mode setting for the heat output. Now, I would definitely recommend using XC batteries for this, the extra capacity batteries, 5 amp hours or maybe 4 amp hours or greater. With a 5 amp hour battery, I got 18 minutes and 45 seconds of runtime. Milwaukee's specification is 18 minutes, but I did notice somewhere between the 17 and 18 minute mark, I looked at the front of this, and the coils are no longer red hot. So it quit heating to its full capacity somewhere after 17 minutes. Prime application I can see for this is crawling into a crawl space and thawing frozen pipes. And so I've got a copper pipe here that I have frozen full of water, just came out of the freezer. So it might be a little bit colder than the normal crawl space. But we're going to see how long this takes. Free and clear of ice, all of it's out of there. The whole thing was frozen solid. Alright, so after running this for about 3 minutes, continuously heating that pipe up, I can grab this top. I can even grab the black plastic shroud right here without getting burned. I did take a temperature measurement of the core in here, and I got at least one reading that was over 300 degrees. So there is excellent insulation between the plastic housing on the exterior and the actual heater core and the internals that actually get really hot. Some nylon webbing and the heat gun. Gonna see if I can singe the end of this so it doesn't fray. Actually works surprisingly well for that application. Alright, then one common application for this heat gun is probably going to be heat shrink tubing. Took that not much time at all. That was a smaller connection, so obviously bigger ones are going to take longer time. And the one thing I'd prefer to see for doing heat shrink connections like that, a lot of the times it's easier to lay the heat gun down, lock on with a trigger, and hold the connection over it. Unfortunately, this doesn't have a trigger lock on, so you can't do that with this one. You got to have one hand on the tool and one hand holding your wire. Alright, one thing I wanted to note, this heat gun doesn't have very good projection of the heat. I don't think the fan is super strong in it. Out about a foot away from the nozzle, I think I can keep my hand here indefinitely without it overheating. I can get it within 8 inches for a while, but it's definitely starting to heat up the back of my knuckles and feels like it might singe the hair on my knuckles after being at 8 inches for a while. But once you back off a little bit farther, it gets it warm. I can definitely feel it out here, but it's not going to burn me. Okay, so a few things I noticed with this. The airflow does seem to be quite a bit lower than other corded heat guns I've used. But then again, this is a cordless heat gun. And I think part of the reason because of that is there's a much shorter body to heat up the air in. And I think Milwaukee's taking advantage of the lower fan speed, heating the air up internally and having a little bit more time to do that before it sends it out the business end. So you get a hotter temperature for a shorter length, but you don't get quite as much mass flow through with your air. It's also a lower temperature than many other heavy-duty heat guns are. A lot of other ones go up to 1100 degrees Fahrenheit. This one goes to 875. So it does have a few limitations there, but it does have the big convenience of being cordless. One thing I noticed about this heat gun that kind of surprised me is it doesn't have a cool down period. A lot of other heat guns I've used kind of blow the fan for a little bit after you turn them off to extend the life of the heating element, to let it cool down while the fan's blowing and putting airflow through it. This one doesn't do that. It turns off immediately, which is actually kind of nice because you don't have to sit there and think, all right, it's still blowing air, I think it's off, but I still got to watch it a little bit because it's still blowing warm air out. This one just turns off. Now, I don't know if Milwaukee designed it with a better heating element that doesn't need that cool down period. It does have a 3-year warranty, so that kind of alleviates my concerns that they're missing something without having a cool down period. So it is awfully convenient not to have that period where it's just blowing and not doing anything. I was just kind of surprised it didn't have it. So areas I can see this excelling at are definitely areas that you're not going to have be able to drag a power cord too easily, or where it's just going to be in the way. A couple years ago, I worked for a company. We did avionics installation in helicopters, and this would have been amazing to heat shrink things when I was in the belly of the aircraft, crammed up in a baggage compartment, trying to heat shrink a connector or a strain relief boot or something like that. This would have been awesome. As it was, I had a cheap corded heat gun I was using. I had to manage the cord. When I set it down, I actually had to take it outside the aircraft and set it on the concrete so it wouldn't be burning anything because I just had to set it down on its side. So this thing has a lot of advantages for tight, compact areas. It can fit in a lot of places other heat guns can't. Of course, with this compactness and with the battery powered, you are sacrificing quite a bit of oomph that a regular heat gun that uses wall power would have. So this is a very specialized application. So I'm not going to say if you're just using a heat gun for a few things here and there and it's not an inconvenience to have wall power, I'd stick with a corded heat gun that's going to be quite a bit cheaper and run quite a bit longer than this one does. So this is kind of a niche applications. If cordless is going to buy you a lot of convenience, and if the compactness is also going to buy you a lot of convenience, this could be something definitely to look into. Otherwise, if you want really long run times, you're still going to have to go with something corded. One thing to watch out for with this is it doesn't come with any nozzles if you buy a bare tool. It is literally just the tool, the manual in the box, and that's it. If you buy the battery kit, you do get 2 nozzles that come with it, but you've got to pay for the whole kit price. This is $120 by itself. I really would have liked to have seen it come with at least a right angle nozzle or a hook nozzle or a spreader nozzle, at least one of those. As it is, Milwaukee sells a kit. I think it's 4 or 5 nozzles. It is $50 just for a bunch of pieces of sheet metal that have been bent and stamped into whatever different shapes. And individually, they're anywhere from $10 to $15. So I would have liked to see a nozzle kit come with this, just a few basic ones, or at least one available for a little bit cheaper price than what they're offering right now. I don't know if there are any aftermarket ones that fit this gun. There might be. I do know the nozzle kit fits Milwaukee's older guns, so if you have one of those, the corded version, those nozzles should fit this gun as well. So hopefully this review is helpful. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments section below, and once again, don't forget to subscribe.